guys, it's Ty and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about my most disappointing / worst books of 2022. And before I start talking about any of those books, I just want to talk about what I consider to be a disappointing book. And anything that I consider to be disappointing are books that I was at some point really anticipating. So all the books that I'm going to be talking about are books that I was anticipating or really excited about or really hyped. And something about these books really let me down, whether that had something to do with the characters or the plot. Something about that book just did not work for me, and therefore I considered it to be a disappointment. There are a couple of books that I'm going to be talking about. I have 9 to talk about in total, where I did enjoy the book overall, but something about it just did not work, and I still considered it to be a disappointment. There is one book on this list, though, that I consider to be a worst book overall. And if you have followed this channel at any point this year, you probably already know what book I'm going to be talking about, so stick around for that. I did have some other disappointments this year, but all of those books fell in the DNF category. I already have a video that I have posted last week, so I will have that video linked, and if you guys are interested in that, I would definitely go ahead and check out that video. So I was able to go ahead and rank these books, so we will just go ahead and start with number 9 on the list. So coming in at number 9 is Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and this was one of my most anticipated releases for this year, and this is a adult romance novel, and this was a anticipated release for I think everybody this year. And for me, this was a disappointment because this just was not the romance that I was expecting. I have only read one other Emily Henry book, and that is People We Met on Vacation, which I really enjoyed. I rated that one a 4 stars. I only rated this one a 3 stars. So in this one, we follow 3 characters, actually. So we follow 2, which is Libby and our main character, Nora, and they decide that they are going to go on a vacation to North Carolina because Nora's sister Libby is about to give birth, and they want to spend some time together before she has yet another child. And while they are on vacation, Nora runs into one of her rivals in the book publishing world, which is Charlie. And while they are on vacation, Nora and Charlie spark up this romance. And the romance aspect of this was fine, but because they are supposed to be these rivals, I thought they were going to have a little bit more of a banter back and forth. But it was as soon as they bumped into each other in North Carolina, the sparks flew right away. And it was fine. Their romance was cute, but I was looking for some, I don't know, some arguing back and forth. So just that rivalry back and forth, and it was just as soon as they saw each other, they were head over heels. And why say it's a rivalry when that's not what it was? And also, this focused a lot on the relationship between Nora and her sister Libby. Fine, I love that. I love anything that has to do with 2 sisters. I'm all for that. But that's not what I was going into this book expecting nor wanting. So for that, I just consider this one a disappointment. I thought it was fine overall, just not something that I was wanting from this book. Number 8 on my list is Finlay, Donovan is Killing It by Elle Casameno. And this again is like a YouTube darling. Everyone seems to really love this one. I thought it was fine. It was okay. The premise of this is freaking amazing. So this is a adult mystery, and we are following our main character, Finlay, and she is a writer. She is going through it at the beginning of this story. She's a single mom. I think she's like recently divorced or recently separated from her husband, and he is with a new woman. And so she is kind of struggling trying to put out her next book. And while she is at a Panera pitching her book to her publicist or whoever she's pitching her book to, someone overhears her and assumes that Finlay is this contract killer and passes a note to her asking Finlay to basically kill their husband for a lump sum of money. And because Finlay is struggling, she actually considers taking the job. And so we follow Finlay as she is trying to figure out whether or not she's going to go through with taking this money and killing this man that she does not know. And somehow her babysitter is roped into it, and it is this big old mess. And I thought this was fine. I just thought this was like really over the top. And I love stuff that's over the top, but this was just too over the top for me. Like, it just went real left for me. And the humor in it was fine, but not my kind of humor, I guess. I think my biggest problem was it was just too over the top. And then what really just didn't work for me, what really just sealed the deal for me and just told me that it's a big no, especially with continuing on, because this is a series, is that the end of this, the epilogue, really just told you all about what the next book is. It didn't leave anything open to the imagination. And I have not really heard positive things about the next books going forward. So I just have no desire to continue on with the series. So again, I just thought this was fine. It was just too over the top. The beginning really was interesting, and I just didn't like where the plot was going. I really wish it would have went in a different direction, but yeah, just fell flat for me. So then number 7 on my list, I'm really sad that I did not enjoy this one as much as I wanted to, but this is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I'm probably like one of the last people who have not read this one, but I finally got to it and it just did not live up to what I thought this was going to be, especially as much as people have hyped up this book and this series as a whole. And so this one follows our main character, Ren. It takes place in China in the 20th century, and she has worked really hard to get into this military academy. And while she's there training, she realizes that she has this power that she did not know that she had. One of her teachers that she has grown close to is teaching her how to use and hone in on this power. While all of that is happening, while she's at this military academy, there's this war that is looming. And we are basically just following Ren and the students at this academy as they are trying to figure out how to basically navigate through this war that is about to take over this certain part of China that they are in. So part 1 of this story is basically us watching Ren as she's training at this academy, as she's learning how to use her power once she has found out that she has the power. Part 2 is us seeing everyone fighting in this war. And part 3 is us seeing the aftermath of the war. I was really split down the middle of how I felt about this book, because honestly, I just felt every part that is in this book could have been its own separate book. My favorite part of this was seeing all of the training that was taking place at this academy. So much could have been fleshed out within just that section of the book. I felt it just went so fast, and it could have been slowed down, and so much could have just been explained in that one part alone. And that could just be said for each part of this book. And then in part 3, it just got so drastically darker, and the tone shifted so much with the aftermath of the war and just the devastation and just the graphic nature of this book. It almost felt like I was reading a different book. This book already has a lot of trigger warnings with just like the drug use. It deals with a lot of violence against women. There's classism, racism. This book deals with a lot of heavy topics. And for that, I can really appreciate R.F. Kuang. Again, there was just a lot of things about this that I just was not expecting to have not enjoy as much as I thought I was going to. And again, I was just disappointed with it. So I do plan on reading the rest of the series, but I feel as though I have heard mixed things about the rest of the books in the series. People seem to either really enjoy books 2 and 3 or they do not. The verdict is out on whether or not I'm going to enjoy the rest of my time with the series. So number 6 on the list, we have The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. And this is a adult mystery novel. And we are following our main character, Casey. And we learn at the very beginning that Casey is dealing with the death of her husband. She is this actress that hasn't been really doing well with the press lately. And because she is still grieving her husband, her mother thinks that it is a good idea for her to go to the lake house and get her head together. So Casey goes to the lake house. She ends up drinking a lot because that is what she uses to cope. And while she's on this lake house, she notices there is a couple that moves across the lake. And that couple includes Tom and Catherine. One day, she actually sees Catherine in the middle of the lake drowning, and Casey goes out and saves Catherine. And from there, she and Catherine have sparked up this sort of friendship, and they start to get to know each other. She then takes it upon herself to start spying on this couple from across the lake, and she notices one night that Catherine has gone missing, and she takes it upon herself to try to figure out what has happened to Catherine, and that's where the story takes off. We learn that Catherine is an unreliable narrator because she is basically a drunk because of how much she drinks to cope with the loss of her husband. And so we can't really believe anything that Catherine says. And that is actually one of the things that I enjoyed about this book. I really enjoyed about 75% of this book. Just learning about Catherine's past, how she was in the film industry, her background with her husband, sitting there watching her spy on these people across the lake. I really enjoyed it. I had a good time with this until we got to the end. And we started to figure out what the heck happened with Tom and Catherine. It was dumb. It was stupid. I did not like the ending of this. I do not know why Riley Sager decided to go in that direction. It made no sense. It might have made more sense if the rules to what he did made sense, but it did not. Alas, I did not like the end of this book. I liked 75% of it, but it killed the rest of the book. So, of course, this one ended up being a huge disappointment for me. So then number 5 on the list, we have The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley, which is another adult mystery novel. This was also one of my most anticipated releases for this year, and let me tell you, I was highly disappointed by this one. So in this, we follow our main character by the name of Jess. She is what I would call a drifter. She moves from one place to another. So at the beginning of this, she doesn't have a place to go, so she decides to call up her half-brother Ben and ask him for a place to stay. Ben says, sure, you can come stay with me at my apartment. So they make arrangements. When she gets to his apartment, Ben is nowhere to be found. So she decides that she needs to figure out what happened to her brother Ben, as anyone would. While she is trying to figure that out, she notices at the apartment that Ben lives at that his neighbors seem a little shady, and she starts going around asking questions. They don't seem to like that, and she gets more than what she bargained for at this apartment complex while she is looking for her brother Ben. Again, I did not like this book. I almost DNF'd this one. It was about, I want to say, almost 100 pages before anything happened. Once stuff started to happen, it just was really over the top. I did kind of like some of the characters and some of the backgrounds of the characters and some of the mess, because again, I do like some mess and some drama. But once we really started digging into what happened to Ben, I was like, what? Seriously? This is what we're doing? No way. One of the things that really irked me though about this book was that everybody in this apartment complex was infatuated with this boy Ben. I'm never really one that needs to see like pictures of characters, because I can pretty much like, if an author can give me a description of a character, I'm good. Like I can pretty much visualize anything that I'm reading. But in this book, I needed to see a picture of Ben. What does Ben look like? Because you mean to tell me that everybody is infatuated with this man? What does he look like? Because I need to know. What? Because you mean to tell me everybody, man, woman, they all after him? They all trying to get a piece of Ben? At this point, I need a piece of him because he must be it if everybody wants him. I don't believe it. And then some of the stuff that was happening at the end, no way. No way. It don't make sense. It don't make sense. And also too, in books, all I have to say, everybody don't gotta make it. We don't all have to make it. It's okay. That's all I'm gonna say. I did not like the Paris apartment at all. Didn't like it. I could have done without it. I have read the Paris apartment, and what else did I read about her? The Guest List. I was told to not read The Hunting Party. So at this point, if Lucy Foley comes out with something else, everybody would have to tell me it is the best book in the world in order for me to pick it up. Because at this point, I can't. I cannot. The Paris apartment just did it for me. And that sounded so promising because all of these creepy people, shady people in an apartment complex sounded like the perfect book. And this one just fell so flat for me. And oh my goodness, the next one we have is number 4 with No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. So this one is an adult mystery. And this is another one that is compared to Get Out. Boy, I have said this once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times on my channel. I cannot stand when books are compared to Get Out because 9 times out of 10, it's not a good comparison. Unless somebody can recommend me a book that is a really good comparison, everyone that I have read that is compared to Get Out has not been good. Just saying. But this one here follows 2 characters. Our main one being Sydney, who lives in Brooklyn, and she is starting to realize that a lot of the black folks have been slowly moving out and a lot of white folks have slowly been moving in. And to kind of combat that, she has decided that she wants to give like these tours of her neighborhood to kind of give people the history of Brooklyn. And this white dude named Theo, who kind of has a crush on Sydney, decides that he wants to help her give these tours. Okay, so that's what they are doing or trying to prepare to do together. Trying to give these history tours of Brooklyn. Slowly but surely, there's something brewing in the background with why all of these people, these black people, have been slowly moving out of this particular neighborhood, and we are following these 2 characters as they are slowly putting the pieces together as to why. So this book is basically dealing with gentrification. It's very clear. But as far as like the comparison to Get Out, the main thing that I continue to say, what draws everybody to Get Out, or at least what draws me to Get Out, is it leaves a lot of questions into what exactly was going on in that movie with the dynamics between black people and white people. In this one, when no one is watching, the stereotyping, the racial profiling, all of that was very in your face. In that book, everything that like Sydney was going through was very clear. Those characters were very blunt with everything that they said, everything that they did. Nothing was subtle at all in that book. It was very in your face. You knew what was going on. I was like, what is happening? Like, I didn't understand the comparison. Then we get to the end of this book where all the way from the beginning to about, I don't know, the last like 30 pages, you know that something's kind of going on. But then you get to that last like 30 pages and I just felt like I turned the page into another book. it took a wild turn and it was so rushed. And I don't know what I was reading after that. It was weird. It was a weird ending to the book. And I could see what the author was trying to do, the message she was trying to convey, but she did it too fast. And I'm not sure it worked for this book. I don't really understand the hype for this one. I didn't enjoy it. It was not a fun time. So, again, another disappointment. And number 3 on the list is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. And this one is a adult historical science fiction. I was really looking forward to this one. This is one of my most anticipated releases of this year, and I was really disappointed by this one. Definitely not what I was expecting, and I was looking so forward to this one this year that I even read the source material, which was The Island of Dr. Moreau, which I really enjoyed, and this one just did not live up to the hype for me. So we basically are following the daughter of Dr. Moreau, which is Carlotta, and she is living in this house. It's set in Mexico, and she is basically finding out that her father, Dr. Moreau, has been hiding some secrets from her, basically about her background and where she has came from. They end up getting this visitor, Eduardo. He is trying to question Moreau about his experiments and trying to take over the experiments, and this just did not work for me. I thought this was extremely slow. I didn't understand the romance aspect of it. The one thing that I did like about this that I wish The Island of Dr. Moreau did was just explain how they made the hybrids. So basically the human / animal creature things. I did like that Sylvia Moreno Garcia took the time to do that, but that was about the only thing that I did like about this book. Other than that, I just thought this was really slow and boring, and I almost wanted to DNF this several times. The only reason why I stuck to reading this was because I wanted to film the video that I did, which I will link it if you guys are interested in that, but that was it. The last 100 pages were what I wish the whole entire book was like, because it was very interesting, very fast paced, but leading up to that, nothing really happened. It was very lackluster. It was just boring. That's the only word that I could say for this. It was just boring. It gave nothing. So very, very disappointing. The number 2 on my list is Ashes of Gold by J.L. And this is the second book in the Wings of Ebony duology. And this is a young adult fantasy duology. And so I was really looking forward to this one because Wings of Ebony was one of my favorite books. It made it into my top books of last year. And I was really, really, really looking forward to this second book. And so when I did not like it, I was really, really, really disappointed by it. And so because it's the second book in the series, I'll just go ahead and tell you what the first book was about. So Wings of Ebony follows our main character by the name of Rue. And when her mother died, she ended up finding out from her father that she had this power that she never knew she had. And her sister Tasha both had different fathers. And so Rue's father ended up taking her back to this city that she never knew about called Gizan. And when she went back to Gizan, she started to learn about this power. On the anniversary of her mother's death, she went back to Houston to see her sister Tasha, even though she was not supposed to go there because she is not supposed to be spotted. And lo and behold, Tasha ends up spotting her and all hell breaks loose. And the story kind of takes off from there. We follow Rue as she is trying to protect Tasha because now Tasha knows Rue's secret and people are now after Tasha and trying to kill her. And we are getting these flashback scenes as we are seeing Rue as she has learned how to use her power. So in this second book, I feel the character of Rue really took a turn. She is not the strong, fierce character that she was in that first book. I'm not sure what happened, but she is not the girl that I fell in love with. And I just did not like where her character arc went. Also, one of the things that I really loved was the dynamic between Rue and her sister Tasha. That was my favorite thing that I really adored about that book and what drew me to that. And we hardly saw Tasha and Rue in this book, which I can understand because Rue had some things that she had to take care of in Gizon, and Tasha was doing her thing in Houston, but I really wish that we got to see more of them together. Then in this book, we had this weird love triangle that I just don't think that we needed. We had some weird betrayal that was just odd. It came from a character that was so unexpected and so did not need to come from. Her best friend was doing some things that I just thought was strange. Every time they got into some sticky situations, it just never felt like they were able to figure out the situations on their own. Her best friend literally had this bag of tricks that every time something bad happened, her friend just had the solution in her backpack. I was just like, what is happening? I understand that this is a young adult series, but I think we could try a little bit harder than that. So I just did not like this second book in the series. And for that, the first book will still forever be my favorite, but that second book was a true disappointment. And then number one on my list as the worst, not even disappointing, the worst book of the year is 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. And this is a adult mystery thriller book. And so in this, we are following 9 strangers that have been put on this list, and they are literally being picked off one by one. And when I say picked off, they are being killed. And this is a retelling of one of Agatha Christie's books. I forget which one. At this point, it's neither here nor there. I did not like this book. The premise of this sounded really good. You have people that are on this list and they are being picked off one by one. Great, awesome, sign me up. No, I hated this book. It is so stupid. The only reason why I stuck this out was because I listened to this on audio and it was less than 8 hours. So I said, why not? Let's stick this out. And the ending sent me over because it was so stupid. One of my biggest problems with this is I think this could have been just a tad bit longer because we have 9 characters and maybe the list should have been shorter because we don't spend enough time with these characters and it switches perspective so fast that I don't get a chance to know any of these people. So by the time they're picked off, I don't even care. When they die, I have no emotion. I'm deadpanned. Oh, this person died? Oh well, I don't care. Then the characters were just doing things that just didn't make sense. Like, you know that you are on this list. You have heard that other people that are on this same list are dying. And you are not doing anything to protect yourself, to hide, to do anything. You are just out here, shoot me, I'm here. Like, what? Like, it just did not make any sense. And then the motive for why this was happening blew me. Like, what? That's why you're doing this? You held a grudge for that long over nothing? That was your motive? And then listen to this. So then you, at the very end of this book, you could literally skip to the end. I'm telling you, if you were at the bookstore, if you turn to page, hold on, let me find it, 302 by accident, you would know what happened because it literally spells it out. It tells it. The reason is like literally spelled out, and you don't have to figure it out. It's literally written down. It's in a letter. It tells you word for in a whole story, in a whole letter. Why would you do that? Like, I don't understand. I could have saved myself the trouble and turned to page 302. I saved all of y'all the trouble. Turn to page 302 and you will know what happened in this book. Everything. This was my first Peter Swanson book. I have no desire at this point to pick up another one. Because if that's what I'm going to get, at this point, I know that I could probably turn to the last 5 pages and figure out what happened. Mind blown. So 9 Lives was number 1 on my list as the worst book of 2022. So that is all that I have for you guys today. Those were my most disappointing / worst books of 2022. So I will see you guys next time. Bye.